So I want to take some time now and show you my exact curation workflow. Now that you've got all the tools and all of the how-to, I'm going to put it all together for you by showing you actually that process in action. I do my curation in the morning. It's kind of like a sitting at my desk and getting used to the idea of actually being at work sort of thing that I do for a half hour or so, and sometimes less. And so I sit down at my desk, I've got my cup of coffee, and I spend a little bit of time going through the feed, seeing what's going on in my niche of internet marketing. And what will work best for you depends on your self-discipline and your habits. If looking in your Google Reader and going through this curation workflow is something that is going to send you off down the rabbit hole for 4 hours or something, clicking links, reading this, watching that video, that sort of thing, then it's probably best that you don't do it first thing in the morning and instead just knock out some real work, some content creation first. But that's entirely dependent on your habits, and you know yourself best. One of the reasons that I'm able to do this in the morning is two things. Number one, I went into this habit with setting a timer so that I would be alerted that, hey, my time is up. It is time for me to stop fooling around in Google Reader and doing my curation, right? And secondly, anything that I see that is going to send me down a rabbit hole, like a video or that sort of thing, now I just send it to Evernote and I can deal with it later there. So consider when you're most productive, consider what other work you have to do. Creating content and curating content is the biggest element as far as what will make you be seen as a market leader. Putting out great information, period. If you can't put out great information, you could get all the traffic in the world to your site, but people won't necessarily respect you as a market leader. So this is imperative, and you should look at it as such. But again, you don't want to let yourself get stuck in the rabbit hole. So let's go through my curation workflow. Again, I do it in the morning, and like I've told you, I start off in the dailies folder and I check out some of the posts. Seth, what's he got going on today? So I've read that. I don't think that it's entirely relevant or something that I want to send out today. So I'm just going to scan the headlines here. How to tweet for traffic. That might be interesting, but I don't want to click through, and we've only got partial feeds. I hate partial feeds. Power and Majesty of Pete Williams. That was hysterical. I've already commented on it. So again, this dailies folder is stuff that I personally want to see each day. It isn't necessarily the best stuff for curation. So I've had a quick peek at that. Pardon me. See what's going on. Now I'm going to go over to my main marketing folder, which again is sorted by magic, super duper important, and see if there's anything new coming up today or that I've missed in the last few days that's super important. This is interesting. Facebook plus Twitter's influence on Google search rankings. This is something that I've been talking about a lot, and so I'm going to scan this article very quickly and see if it is in fact relevant to my audience. So let's take a peek. They've been collecting data. Correlation is not causation. And so this is a pretty long article. This is something I'm going to send it to Evernote for starters because it's got a lot of really good stats and stuff that I may want to reference later. Your clip has been saved to my default notebook. Very good. And I also do want to share this on Facebook. So I'm going to click the page because remember I talked about how I have this weird thing where I have to have the actual page URL as opposed to the Google feed reader. That's just totally my weirdness, so you don't have to do that. I'm going to put this on my Facebook page because this is something that I've been talking about a lot. And I typed something wrong, so I'm going to correct my spelling. And there we go. So now that just went out to my Facebook page, and then it automatically posted to my Twitter feed as well. Let's see what else there is. Small businesses benefit from social media. Boring. Boring. And you see, I'm just looking at the headlines. How to learn GIMP. Boring. Oh, this has one of those, the posts your fellow bloggers don't want you to read headlines, so I got sucked in. Let's see what this is about. I'm boring. Okay, moving on. And I don't mean when I say that something is boring that it's not an interesting read. I mean that it isn't relevant to my audience as far as my job right now, which is curation. Period. That's all I'm doing right now. Looking for things to curate. Now, that may have been an article that I would want to read later, and if so, I would send it to Evernote. Geolocation. 7 social media concepts average users don't really know about. How much SEO is spent on education. This is this guy's writing's interesting, so I'm taking a peek at this. Oh, that was a sad story. But irrelevant. Panda update. Google lowers the boom on eHow. Let's take a peek at that. Again, this is relevant to my audience, which is why I would like to see it. Search engine land does partial feeds. Boo. How did Google hit eHow this time? It really doesn't look like as big of a boom as they said. Alright. Not interesting. I think that the headline was a bit misleading. The boom on eHow is not as massive as that headline made it seem like. And this is, you know, I mean, again, that may be an interesting article, but part of curation is finding the best stuff. And so, while that is news that could be interesting to some of my folks, I really only want to send out the best stuff. One great way to write blog posts that get retweets. One way. Let's see. Boring. How I'm minimizing distractions and getting more done. Get off Farmville. Yeah. Why are you doing that, and do you really need to? Asking yourself those questions. Very good advice. However, not good enough to curate. Do you have silver bullet poisoning? Silver bullet poisoning, my name for when your business is harmed by the advice of products that look and sound good, but the advice doesn't work in practice. No. Yeah, I know my market really, really well because I've been doing this for a number of years. And I also know which blogs and authors are shared a lot. I try to stay away from the Me Too sharing. So by that I mean that, for example, a ProBlogger article probably is going to get a lot of attention sharing on Twitter, Facebook, and most of my audience is probably also already subscribed to ProBlogger. So it's a rare instance when I will curate a piece from ProBlogger. And that's not a judgment of the quality of that site. I think it's a great site. But instead it's because a lot of what you should be doing in curation is finding the best stuff, but also you don't need to point out the obvious, right? If most people are subscribed to a particular site or most people know about something, it's really not worthwhile for you to add to that noise unless, of course, you have something new to say about it. So, an article on ProBlogger that I totally disagree with or have something to add to that's valuable, I may well share, and I can add my voice to that. But an article that's, a good article, but not 5-star diamond fantastic, while it may be very good, I wouldn't necessarily share it simply because most of my audience has probably already seen it. And so I like to share things that they may not have seen or that I have a unique twist on. 5 reasons why Twitter will kill TweetDeck. 8 ways to sell using social media. Boring. If content is king, how do I generate enough content for my blog? How do I find people to write? How do I choose who gets to write? How do I compensate my writers? Not interesting to my audience because I don't focus on outsourcing content. Yahoo Buzz to be discontinued. Okay, it's interesting to know. When expert knowledge hurts your email marketing. 5 examples. That's interesting. No. And you'll see, I'm pretty specific as far as what I do allow through my stream and what I do curate and what I don't. Don Draper, who is on Mad Men. Good show. Looking forward to the next season. That being said, not interesting enough for my audience. Some days I might find nothing. Some days I might find one thing, and some days I might find 6. It's, you never know what's going to be in the feed. And that's all good. That looks like an interesting title. Again, partial feeds, boo. But let's take a look. Projects fail all the time because we unwittingly bake the end solution into our... That's very true. All right. I think that this is really good advice. Very true. So I'm going to share this as well. And I'm going to send this out via Buffer instead. So that'll go out whenever Buffer posts it for me next. And we're just continuing to look through the feeds here. Scenarios add value to marketing content. Oh, this B2B nonsense. Boo. 6 secrets to creating a culture of innovation. Not interesting enough to click through. Full feeds. Perfectionism is stealing your profits. That's from Rich Sheffrin. That's very true. I think that this is a video. Now, it's a 3-minute video, so normally I'd watch it right now, but I don't want to make you watch it. And if I really, really, really liked it, I may send it out. Chris Brogan, stacking wood. I've never owned a wood stove. Ugh. I lived in a house with a wood stove as its only heat for 5 years. So Chris Brogan is very lucky in that regard. Alright, so this is like a Zen and the Art of Internet Marketing via stacking wood post, which is not exceptional in my mind. My visit to Notre Dame, fun but not relevant. And you should be this critical when choosing what you are going to send out to your audience, because you absolutely need to be getting the best stuff out there. It isn't a matter of volume, it's a matter of quality. Help build a competitive affiliate program. I would do business with this company. Why WordPress theme footer links can be considered editorial approved. There are a bunch of rich people and firms subsidizing tech entrepreneurs, but this time the entrepreneurs are better. That's amusing, but not relevant. Now, what I will also normally do is, as you can see, my feeds have built up a little bit. So I will go through these until either my 20 minutes, half hour runs out, or until I've sent out a few items and I feel good, like I've done a decent job on curation. I don't really worry about clearing out the whole folder because I'm using the sort by magic. Google gives me the most important stuff on top. So as I get further down, it gets less and less relevant for me, and Google Reader puts that together for me. So my concern isn't to get through 840 items in this case, and yours shouldn't be either. As you go through your reader and read certain things, Google Reader will understand and start to learn what's best for you, and you should then start seeing the things that are most relevant for you on the top. How to hire a virtual assistant. Now, so far I've had a Twitter and then something that I sent through Buffer, so I'd like to get at least 1 or 2 more pieces out there, so I'm going to keep going. One content asset can't do everything. More B2B stuff. Ugh. I just say that because my audience isn't necessarily like small brick and mortar businesses. You know, it's entrepreneurs, which is a different kind of marketplace. Ooh, AirPlay. Today, Squirrel brings Hulu, YouTube, and Netflix to the AirPlay table. This is very significant. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, this is an 18-minute video that's embedded here. I most likely wouldn't watch that. A Squirrel allows you to aggregate and organize your videos in one location. You can bookmark videos you find while browsing the web on your iPad. Oh, that's cool. You can capture any video that you tweet or retweet, and you can forward the video links to your email address that Squirrel provides. Discovery is a big part of this service, as you can find new videos in several ways. That's cool. So it's kind of like show me a little bit. So I'm going to send this out in Buffer. Uh-oh, something went borky with the video embed. Alright, so the video embed made the buffer window actually come up behind the video, which meant that I couldn't see it and therefore couldn't add it to buffer. So what I've done is actually just gone to the blog page here because that messed things up. So I'm going to send this out of my buffer. And I'll add that to my buffer. And then I'm going to go back to Google Reader and continue the curation process. Are your friends sabotaging your business? Okay, so this is about people not really respecting your time as a work-at-home person. And I think that that might be helpful to a lot of folks. I'm going to put that on Facebook. Why did I choose Facebook? Because, as opposed to Buffer for that one, because this is something that I can ask a question about and that may spark a discussion on Facebook. And then, of course, that went out on Twitter as well. So now I've got 2 Facebook posts out. I've got 2 tweets scheduled, 2 tweets that just went out because I put them on Facebook. So that's pretty good. Maybe I'll find one more thing to put on Twitter for the day. How I became an optimist. That's fun. Unfortunately, it's partial feed, so it's not interesting enough for me to click through all the way. What is your strategy for social media intimacy? God, that key phrase, social media intimacy, that makes me want to vomit more than the phrase engagement. I hope we don't start using that. Oh my gosh. That would make me want to die a slow, slow death. That I'm going to tweet about. Alright, so I'm going to add that to my buffer. There's an example of something that you don't necessarily agree with and posting about that. So this is my curation workflow, and it's not maybe necessarily the most fascinating thing to sit and watch because a lot of it is quickly scanning articles and things like that. But I hope that you've gotten some value from seeing how I go through the process. At this point, I've got a good amount of stuff going out in my buffer. I've got a few things that have gone on my Facebook page, and so I'm done. That's it for the day. That's it for me. You may want to schedule things so that you've got a little bit more in the pipeline for yourself so that you can do this once every few days. However, if it's a niche that you're really engaged with and that you really want to become that market leader, you're going to have to do it every day. But with these tools that I've shown you, with the way that Google Reader will sort by magic for you, it shouldn't take you that long to go through this process. And because while you can get Twitter scheduled for quite some time with the buffer, you can't do that with Facebook because your Facebook posts need to be done by hand. So if you're not curating every day, then you're not on your Facebook page giving people great new stuff to read. And you're not in their thoughts and in their minds as that market leader if you're not doing that. And for that reason, this is something that has to be done every day. But as you can see, it didn't take me hours upon hours, and I got some great stuff out there. And at the same time, I was still incredibly selective, and I'm sorry that you have to watch me go through that process as far as, again, it maybe not being the most interesting video in the world to watch, but that's the way that you should be doing it as well, because you should only be publishing the best stuff. Now, I also want to give you a quick example of curation in a blog post. There was nothing here that really made me feel like I needed to write a whole blog post about something. And that's not the model that I use for the MichelleMcPherson.com blog. I do have other sites that use a curation model on the blog itself, but in this marketplace, I don't necessarily do that. I prefer to stick to longer, full-length type of articles here. But here was a book that I was reading that, like the opening statement, I felt was misleading and inappropriate. So I quoted it, and then I went on and supported why I thought that that was an inappropriate statement for them to make, and went on and talked about the way that I believe that things should be. So this is at MichelleMcPherson.com. Search for unicorn bones, as that's a fairly unused key phrase. So do a little search for it, and you can find this exact post if you'd like to see how I handled a longer post where I curated a tiny bit, got some inspiration from another site, and then, or sorry, in this case it was a book, got some inspiration, credited them with what gave me that jumping off point, and then went on to a full-length article for it. And we'll talk more about that kind of content creation, that full-length sort of stuff throughout this course. But in terms of curation, nothing today really set me off too much. So I didn't have anything going on in that department. But you got a really good look at how this curation workflow goes every single day for me. And it's the Google sort by magic that allows me to do it the way that I do it, and to do it in such a short amount of time. So thanks for your time, and we'll talk soon in the next video.